Where's Raj, you say? Well, I know you can never replace Raj. We've got a special guest today that's going to give you his thoughts on the whole college football world and tell you who's going to win the championship this year. Back in 15 seconds. All right, folks, another great Herb and Herb video. I know, just don't tell Raj that he missed out on this one. Okay. As we said, very special guest, host of Locked on College Football and Locked on Ducks. This man pulls triple and quadruple duty informing the college world of everything. He will also be flipping the coin at the Big Ten Championship and the College Football National Championship game. He actually is the owner of the Aflac Duck, and you might have heard me tell you that one before, but the Aflac Duck stays at his house. So believe it or not, one of our favorite guests, sometimes mistaken for a black man. I'll let him explain that one. Spencer McLaughlin coming to the stage, sir. How are we doing?
doing great. I'm right. This is working into my morning routine nicely. I'm gonna let the duck out of its cage once we tape. Go for a walk. I get some weird looks. Yes. I get some weird looks walking that duck down. Just to be clear, I don't actually own the Aflac Duck, but what a flex that would be. Then yes. Every time on my Ducks pod, I've been doing Oregon trivia. Every time I do that, I would have to present the duck, for if I had the right. Aflac Duck and be like, okay, right. We're doing trivia now, marked by the fact that I'm showing you the most iconic trivia icon in the history of the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I appreciate you taking out time for
of course.
This, man. I know you got a lot running around. We'll get right into it. Legislator was dropped. What was that? Yesterday, the day before, where they're changing. I mean, and it seems like the NCAA, they always react to whatever people are mad about the year before. So some people are blaming Alabama for this one. Some people are honestly blaming Indiana. Break down this new metric that they're using and what your thoughts are on it.
So They don't actually say things that should be controversial. I understand why they're going to be. Frankly, Herb, I didn't have an incredibly strong reaction. It was notable. I talked about it on my show. But really, I'm in the, okay, let's see what they do with this. Because right. It's just language. It's just words. They're saying you're not going to be rewarded for beating weaker opponents as much, and you're not going to get punished for losing to stronger opponents. Right. Well, what they don't put in there is the style of the game. So right. Indiana, for example, last year, to me, it read as the Indiana SMU rule. That's how it initially read. And if you take that to DEFCON 1, I do understand that. This is the same committee, though, that just a year ago didn't give the SEC what they were looking for, which was a 9-3 team in the playoff. Maybe this language changes that. I've just always been hesitant to jump on the bandwagon of the playoff committee is just giving the SEC everything it wants. No, it didn't last year. Maybe that changes this year, and we reassess. But, I mean, the premise of a tough game that you lose not punishing you, I actually don't think really happens at the moment, at least not significantly. Right. Alabama didn't get left out of the playoff last year because they lost. Who was their third loss last year? Oklahoma.
The third one was Oklahoma. So it went Vandy,
Oklahoma,
Tennessee,
Vandy,
Oklahoma. You're probably
Tennessee. Sorry, yeah, Tennessee is what I'm thinking of. Okay, so Alabama goes on the road to a really good team in Tennessee and loses. That's not why they didn't make the playoff. Oh, right. They didn't make the playoff because of the Vanderbilt loss and the Oklahoma loss. That was the reason. And so I don't know that actually changes based on what the committee has written here. Would that change? Those are two 6-6 teams. Yeah. A couple of teams that if they don't beat you aren't making a bowl game last year. So based on the committee's own words here, that actually shouldn't have changed. The same applies to Ole Miss and South Carolina. because the reason Ole Miss didn't get in the playoff is because they lost to who? Kentucky, who stinks. Well, if they're saying that's going to punish you more, Ole Miss would actually be further away from the college football playoff. Now, the reason it reads as the Indiana and SMU rule to me is those teams took more flack because they didn't have the strongest schedules. But what I wonder about is Indiana went 11-1 last year with an average margin of victory against a weak Big Ten schedule that was comparable to 2023 Michigan. Would anyone be saying Ohio State or Michigan if they lost the game at the end of the year after playing Indiana's schedule and beating the living daylights out of everyone? If they did that, would anyone object to Ohio State or Michigan getting in? Or would your brand bias come into play and Indiana is, well, it's the red IU and it's Indiana, right?
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, Indiana had the smallest margin of defeat of any team in the first round of the college football playoff last year. So I'm in a wait and see mode. It is notable and kind of funny that a few days before the season starts, let's slide this under the rug. By the way, we're just gonna make some changes to how we assess playoff teams. Like, oh,
yeah. Well,
okay.
It's like when the legislatures have this big bill and then they slide that little words in there and go, hey,
they add.
Like, hey, what about line 60?
They add a rider or something like that just kind of gets slapped on. You're like, oh, yes. Okay, well, let's see if that has an impact because boy, it might be notable that the timing of this is such that you are seemingly trying to sneak it in and hope nobody notices. Because if they do this in May, how much public discussion and pressure do they face? Right? It's different.
We have nothing else to talk about all summer, so we
exactly. Exactly. It'd be the biggest news. But right now, everybody's getting excited about the season. They're focused on the year and all that, and then they say, "Oh, we might change this." But again, losing a tough game, I wonder how much they're going to consider margin of victory. So let's say when Alabama goes to Georgia this year, if they lose that game by 3 points, I think if you look at the recent history of playoff rankings, Alabama's not going to get punished severely for that. But if Alabama goes and has an inverse of their LSU game last year, which was 42-10?
Yeah, 13,
okay.
42 there.
Okay, that should punish you more, right? Like that's what I would like for them to do is teams can't control their conference scheduling. They control their non-conference scheduling for dumb reasons. That's a different conversation. But if you go out and a team has a schedule, like take Oregon this year. Oregon's Big Ten schedule does not have Ohio State. It does not have Michigan. It does have Penn State. It does have Indiana at home, but it does not have Illinois. So it doesn't have three of the top teams in the Big Ten. Overall, it's pretty favorable on paper going into this year. If they go 10-2 and they have a really bad, like if Penn State beats them by 20, and let's say they can't score at Iowa and they lose by 15-20, is the committee going to look at that and say, well, those are good losses? Or is it, oh, wait, anytime you played a good team, you got beat really soundly? I don't know. So that's why I didn't freak out over it.
Yeah, I think it's wild. And to one of the first points in there, as an Alabama fan who was at the Oklahoma game, like I wasn't arguing for us. And there were people who were mad. If you're not arguing for Alabama 9-3 to get in, you're not a true fan. I was like, I was at the game. Like your playoff life was on the line. And even if you go back to the Tennessee one, your offense let you down in that game. Your defense played well enough to win and you lost. So it's kind of, I had trouble arguing for last year. So I didn't really care, how that came through, to be honest.
Yeah.
I get your brand one is spot on also because Ohio State and Michigan would start the year higher. So their problem is not just that Indiana doesn't have brand recognition. In their mythical rankings that we start the year with, Indiana will be down lower. So like, oh, they just came from, ranked 30th in the nation to rank 12. So now we're penalizing for that. Why? Because on paper you didn't think they'd win?
And I mean, think about a team like Arizona State last year. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12, and then the Big 12 responded by saying, okay, we're done with preseason rankings or preseason media polls in our conference because this clearly had an impact a season ago. I mean, you had two teams in the Big 12 championship game that were 10-2 in the regular season, had no discussion. You had a third team that was 10-2 with BYU that got zero, maybe not zero, but I mean almost no discussion for being an at-large, despite having a win against a road playoff team. That's SMU. They went and beat SMU by 3 points and won 10 games in the regular season. That's a pretty solid case to make the college football play. Now, the question would be, who are you putting them in over? And I don't know when you have the automatic group of 5 spot or the automatic berth for Clemson coming out of the ACC. Like, I don't know which team you would say is better or had a better resume necessarily. But I'm just interested to see how this all plays out, and we'll be watching the rankings very closely as I do every week to see, okay, this team played a bad team and lost by 15. Are they dropping 8 spots instead of the 2 spots they otherwise would have dropped? Or this team lost by 3 to Georgia on the road, we're not even going to drop them at all. Like I think that actually makes sense. Or rewarding teams that could go to Georgia and win, for instance, or could go to Tuscaloosa and win. I think fundamentally, just at a glance, that language makes sense to all of us. It's just that when the committee is involved, people have an ingrained level of distrust.
Yes, I agree. And, we're all susceptible to different things. And like I said, the preseason rankings don't help you with all this stuff. And, you listen to noise throughout the whole year, and we all know it influences you. Whether they say, oh, no, we locked ourselves in a room with. No, you didn't. You read stuff all year. You have bias depending on what part of the country.
Yeah, why do you think the playoff seating changed? Last year they had this dumb format that all of us were ripping and realized was insane, and all of a sudden they changed it for this year. Well, what made you want to change that? Was it just your internal conversation, or maybe, just maybe, did you realize that the entire public was against it for a good reason, that being the seating system last year made no sense? Now we get straight seating, which I think will be better.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to who's going to make those seeds. Let's since you are, I've proclaimed you the smartest man in college football, so you'll be able to tell us who makes the Big 12 championship game and who wins it.
Kansas State, Texas Tech, that's a coin flip game to me.
Right.
Making a prediction about it before the year, it didn't go great for me last year. I would in the Big 12. The Big 12 is the hardest championship race to predict. It's the most fun to watch for sure. I would not sleep on Utah. They bring in a first-team All-Mountain West quarterback, and their quarterback play last year was abysmal. They still won 5 games, and we're in a couple more. So.
Physical brand of defense, too.
Yes, that defense is not going anywhere. The defense didn't go anywhere last year. Their problem was the quarterback. Yeah, they just had no offense they could lean on the other side. They played a competitive game at Arizona State, which at the time felt like ASU punching above their weight. And then once the season came down, you realized, oh, wait a minute, that would have been a heck of a win for Utah. And they did it with, a limping Cam Rising. And, if Devin Dampier is good. I don't think he needs to be great. He doesn't need to be one of the 10 best in college football. He doesn't need to be Sam Levitt at ASU or Baron Morton at Texas Tech. If he's just good, Utah is, I think, an 8-win team minimum, and we know 9 or 10 wins is going to get you to the Big 12 championship game. But I like Kansas State a lot. I think they beat Iowa State in Farmageddon this week. The Cyclones will be really good as well. But I like Kansas State. I really like Texas Tech, and I'm the guy that's buying
all in too. Texas.
I am. I am. Yeah. I love what they have done, and I think they are worthy of the hype and attention that people like myself have been giving them, because they have had the best offseason of any team in the Big 12 by far, not just for this year's team, but for their entire program. And so I think that makes this a really important year. I'm sure scarred Texas Tech fans would tell you that's why they're going to let down and not get there and all that, and I get it.
They turn the video off. They're like, no way.
I get it, but the fact of the matter is they've got an experienced quarterback who we know is good, a coach who's proven he can win, and they went out and made their roster better and seriously addressed weaknesses from a season ago. They got one of the best players that moved in the spring portal window in David Bailey from Stanford, coming off the edge defensively. Like, that's a guy who could have gone to SEC schools and been a starter, and he's at Texas Tech. So, the Red Raiders have had quite the offseason. They are really trying to get into that upper tier. I think they're very capable, and their schedule will allow them to do that. I love Kansas State's schedule. That's my favorite part about it. Utah's is solid as well, but Kansas State's schedule is really favorable, and they're a really good team. So I'll take those two to square off in the Big 12 championship game, and then it's coin flip from there. In the ACC, there are teams I like. I'm not going to pick anybody to knock off Clemson from the ACC championship until I see that someone's even better than I think. And my top 4 power-rated teams in the ACC this year, Clemson 1, Miami 2, Louisville 3, don't sleep on Louisville, and Georgia Tech 4. Don't sleep on Georgia Tech. They get a shot at Clemson. They get a shot at Georgia. So I think that if one of those teams starts to be even better than I think they are, okay, maybe, but I'll take Clemson. That Clemson team is one of my 3 favorite national title picks for. Yeah.
Miami's my lazy second pick against them, but I'm like, I don't know. We'll see what Carson Beck does.
Yeah,
I think they're getting by.
I think they're good. Cam Ward did a lot for them last year. Carson Beck is not Cam Ward. He is very good though. Let's not overlook the fact that this is a guy who, threw all those interceptions at Alabama last year, still finished with 430 passing yards. Like, dude can sling it, and he's with an offense. Yeah, and he's with an offensive coordinator who is clearly very good in Shannon Dawson. Right. So, in the SEC, I actually think Alabama's being slept on. I was on it. I taped the show yesterday.
I didn't know if you knew I was an Alabama fan.
Yeah, I put it together, but again, I'm not just saying that because I know you're Alabama guys. Like, I was taping a show yesterday on Locked On Sooners that I think airs Friday, and they asked me who my sleeper team in the SEC is, and I said Alabama, which is wild and weird, but the national narrative or discourse that I've seen largely revolves around schools other than Alabama. And I think it just comes down to Ty Simpson. If Ty Simpson is good, then Alabama is great. That's the translation to me that happens this year. If he's not good, well, Houston, we have a problem. Because we know Kalen DeBoer's offense having Ryan Grubb back is huge. But we know that offense needs a really good passer from the pocket. But if they get one, boy, we know he's got weapons to throw the ball to. We know that the offensive line is going to be good. We know that I think the defense will be much improved as it was over the second half of last year. So, yeah, I do like Bama, and it's hard to pick against Georgia as well. Other team,
you can't.
No, yeah. I mean, last year I think was Kirby's, and he's admitted this as well. And he said this to Josh Pate a while back. It was his best coaching job since he's been there. Like, they went to the playoff. They got bullied by Notre Dame. They still won the SEC. And
they probably shouldn't have last year. That was the year.
No, they shouldn't have. That was a year to get. That was a year to get him. Yeah. I think Georgia's a reload team, and one that is primed to be really good once again. I do like Texas, but they're preseason number 1, so they've got that curse, and I'm not going to pick them to win anything because that's the way.
I actually have them at 9-3 on the year, so that's my bold take for the year.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really high on Texas, and I still am because the defense is going to be filthy good. Like Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Mafe at safety, like they got dudes. They got real. They lost a couple guys. Their questions are offensive line and quarterback, serious questions. But I think overall that Texas will be really good again. I'd look for them to knock on the doorstep. I do like South Carolina a lot. I'm a big Shane Beamer fan. Lenore Sellers is really good. The teams that I don't buy into that everyone else, and LSU I think will be good too. I love Garrett Nussmeier. The teams that are really trendy picks, I'd say, to make the SEC title game are that I'm not on board with are Florida, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss, who are all overrated in the preseason top 25.
Did you tell them that on Locked On Sooners? Like, did they?
I did.
We had Jay on the show, and he wasn't like
Jay's the man.
Super high on he wasn't super high on them either, to be honest, though.
Well, I mean, their schedule is brutal. That's not the only reason that I'm not higher on them because, I think their schedule is difficult to be sure, but I think that they're a good team. I think they'll be a really good 7 or 8 win team. I don't think they should make the playoff. Maybe they could win 9 and we see where resumes are at and determine whether they should get into the college football playoff or not. But no, I don't think they're a playoff team. But Florida being number 15 in the preseason, give me a break. Like, give me an absolute break. Billy Napier
Which is
stinks.
funny because both those two teams were at like 7-5, 8-4. Because we just did our preview show for them.
Florida was 7-5, and then Oklahoma was 6-6. And you're telling me those are preseason top 15 teams? Like, no. You can make the argument for preseason top 25, just to be clear. I'm not saying you can't do that because if DJ Lagway is healthy, he's got like 3 different injuries they had. That Florida offensive line better play with their tails on fire. Yeah. Because if they don't and he gets hurt, they're done. They are done. And they could set off huge dominoes in the sport. But Oklahoma, yes, they brought in, I thought, the best transfer portal quarterback in John Mateer. It was either him or Carson Beck. All right. So that means you're better than last year. Last year they lost to Navy. So can we pump the brakes on Oklahoma? Oklahoma's great. Well,
preseason top 20? Beating us. That's all they talk about.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
That was the only thing they did last year. They were not good. They were not a good football team. They were fine. They were a fine football team. Fine plus a good quarterback who played the Mountain West last year. That is not grounds to put you inside the top 20. So, yeah, I think those teams are overrated coming into the year. Not that I don't think they're good, but I just think they're getting too much preseason love in that respect. And that does make me kind of wonder, like, maybe they are going to just benefit the SEC in a big way. And then wrapping it up with the Big Ten, I love Penn State. I am the guy who is in on teams that can't get over the hump for the last I don't know how many years. Texas Tech and Penn State. And there is no – I hear this a lot. I like Penn State because if not now, when? Well, that's not actually a reason to like them on the football field. That's just a feeling that you have. And I understand that because I have it as well. But Penn State, if you put a blind resume test of Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon out there, I can almost guarantee you that as long as you had informed college football fans, Penn State would be preseason power rated higher in a blind resume test. Yeah. I don't think it's even particularly close. So, not that they can't lose to those teams. They can. They play them both. I think they will beat them both. They'll either beat Ohio State in the regular season in Columbus, or they will beat them in the Big Ten championship game. One of the two. But Penn State, on paper, is the best team in the Big Ten going into this year.
Yeah. I think there's also we did our Big Ten preview, and you could also honestly see Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon all at 11-1. I think there's a very easy path. Yeah,
you can. And in that scenario, I'd be good with that as an Oregon guy because that means Oregon actually misses the Big Ten title game because they probably lose the head-to-head to Penn State. Penn State loses to Ohio State, but then Ohio State at 11, I don't know. Did they lose to Michigan? Did they lose to Illinois?
Texas.
I don't know.
They could lose that first Texas game.
Texas. Oh, yeah. They are going to lose that game. So, yeah, I think in that world, Ohio State undefeated in the Big Ten, Penn State one loss, Oregon one loss, Penn State head-to-head. Oregon would host a playoff game, and that might be the only Oregon game I can attend all year because I got play-by-play for my Thunderbirds this year again. Yeah. So, like a playoff game.
If I'm an Oregon fan, I would love that.
Yeah, a playoff game at Austin Stadium, it'd be great. It'd be awesome. And, Oregon fans ask me all the time, are you going to any games this year? I'm like, well, I'd love to. Except for the part where I am calling a college football game every Saturday that Oregon's playing a game, and I'm just crossing my fingers they're not at the same time. So, yeah, I think that'd be a great scenario. I do think Texas is going to go into Ohio State and win. So,
wow.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about that.
Everyone in SEC country is hoping that doesn't happen, by the way. We're all
really?
Yes.
Yeah, who wants a quality non-conference? Who wants the highest quality non-conference win possible in the sport? Gosh almighty.
We don't care. This team, we do not. And it's funny. I said this one time, like, nobody likes Alabama. I'm like, no, we're all a brotherhood. I'm like, no, we're not down here. We all hope everyone else fails. So, all right. Since I know we kind of ran over, I appreciate you jumping in here. Who is your championship game picks? Who's going to be in it? You don't even have to pick the winner.
Penn State, Clemson.
We were doing so well.
Penn State, Clemson, and let me tell you, if I'm right, and the SEC is left out of the national title game again for a third straight season, we're going to be having some serious conversations over on Locked On College Football, and SEC country's not going to like it.
I will tune into all of them, and we'll be getting you back on here just so you can tell us how bad we are again. I'm good.
Sounds
I ain't
good,
crowing
man.
this time. I'm good. Spencer, appreciate you taking out the time. Everybody, like and subscribe. Check us out. Check out Spencer pretty much everywhere. Locked on College Football.
All over the place.
World. So, yes, sir. Appreciate you taking out the time. Everyone else, have a great day. Roll Tide.